Version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation with me and my chill music. I hope you like it. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and this is the video version of my journal. I'm multicasting on several platforms, including Facebook Live and YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter. So, on whatever platform you're watching, we want to welcome you to the conversation. If you're one of my new subscribers, thanks so much for subscribing. And if you are returning, welcome back. I know you're going to hear something that you're going to like. So before it's over, please like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. Today, we're going to talk about trust. And again, trust is something that is relatively easy to obtain, but it is actually it's hard to obtain, but it's easy to lose trust. If you trust somebody, they are somebody that you can depend on to be a person of their word. They're going to show up when they say they're going to show up, and they're going to show up where they say they're going to show up. And so I remember when I was growing up, and I used to ask my mother, Mommy, can I go different places? And she would say where you're going, Steffanie, and go where you're saying, because she wanted to know wherever I was asking her to go, and she agreed that I could go, that was where she could find me in case she needed to find me. In other words, she wanted me to be trustworthy. But when somebody continues to misuse the trust that you have given to them, say, for example, they do something wrong and then they apologize. Okay, you accept their apology because they asked for forgiveness, but then they continue to do that same thing over and over again. Finally, you have to call BS on that person. And today we're calling BS on Pastor John Gray. So we'll talk about it right after this message. Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice. The police officers involved showed reckless disregard. Hello and welcome back to the show. I just debuted my new show opening, so I hope you like it. I had to get it together. So today we're talking about the sins of Pastor John Gray. So some people gain our trust based on their position in our lives, or the training or the profession that they're a part of. So your immediate family is somebody that you probably trust. Give or take a few folks. We also trust physicians because of their training, and most of us would say we trust our pastors as an example because of the position that they hold. But it only takes one crooked doctor, one cheating ass pastor to make some people give the side eye to every other physician or pastor. But when your husband is the pastor and he's also the cheater, that adds another layer of betrayal. So let's take John Gray, for example. Now, John Gray, he's the pastor of Relentless Church in South Carolina. And last week, Gray admitted to another extramarital affair after the woman that he was involved with shared video of one of their intimate encounters with YouTuber Tasha K. And while I realize that everyone is human and that we're not perfect and we are all in need of forgiveness, at some point I have an issue with someone, especially if that person is supposed to be the church pastor leading other people to Christ, always needing forgiveness for the same sin. This is at least the third time that John Gray, that I know of, where John Gray has been caught with his pants down with a woman who was not his wife. Back in November 2020, Gray admitted to having an emotional affair with someone. He claimed that it wasn't physical, it was just emotional. Okay. Something about phone sex and some other stuff. Okay. Then another time in 2021, Gray got caught in another indiscretion with a second woman, and he publicly apologized to his wife and to his congregation at Relentless Church. And now, just a few days ago, Pastor Gray is again apologizing for getting caught out there with a third woman. So he made an Instagram post the other day about his habit of laying hands on other women. It's a 35-minute post, but of course, I'm not going to share the whole 35 minutes. I am going to show you a portion of it, and I had it set up, and of course, for some reason, it didn't work like I wanted. So I'm going to bring it up again. So bear with me while I get this started. We're going to scroll down to his post. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. I'm going to start this at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and we're going to listen to about a minute of
healing and truth telling about my own soul. Sometimes in faith communities, in church, they don't let you tell the truth of your condition. And when you produce like I produce, people can assume that you're well when you're not. The truth is, I'm excited to embark upon a journey that is going to culminate in being fully actualized and fully healthy as a man, as a husband, as a father. You know, I just really want God to unlock my complete potential, the potential of my manhood. And I see the war on men and on our minds and on our souls. The trauma from sexual abuse in my childhood, the generational setbacks, the examples that I didn't have, and other people as well. Those can be reasons why we arrive at a place, but they can't be an excuse to stay there. At some point, we're going to have to take personal responsibility.
Okay, so we're going to stop it there at his claim that at some point you need to take personal responsibility. And I agree with him. And again, it was a 35-minute Instagram post. I don't know. I can never post for 35 minutes. So I guess maybe it's the number of followers that you have or something, because these people posting on Instagram for an hour. I'm like, okay, what's going on? But at any rate, in a nutshell, John Gray mentioned that he was abused as a child. Go back and look at the whole thing in that 1 minute. I just wanted to give you kind of what the sentiment was that where he was coming from. He said he was abused as a child and that the shame of that has led him to feel unworthy of all the things that God has blessed him with, and that causes him to act in a deviant way, such as having extramarital affairs. He also mentioned that he has suicidal thoughts and has shared with people in his inner circle that he is ready to commit to his own healing. And so while it all sounds good, I find it convenient that John Gray only confesses all this the first time, the second time, the third time, only after the women that he was cheating with released video and audio of his cheating. I find that convenient. So if you're really feeling remorseful for what you've done, I think that he should step down from the pulpit and work on getting his mind right, and his personal life together. The fact that he won't step away from the spotlight and that he continues to post on social media should prove to his parishioners, because that's what I'm getting from it, that he's not somebody that they should allow to be their spiritual leader. It seems like he's addicted to the spotlight. If I was a member of Relentless Church, John Gray would have to go, or I would have to go. Gray said in his Instagram post that because he continues to produce, I guess in his eyes, producing means building the church and getting new members, and that means more money coming into the church, that people who would be in charge of him stepping down are choosing to overlook his indiscretions. And so a cheating ass pastor is not somebody that I'm going to allow to be my spiritual leader and be in charge of my spiritual growth. And that's why I always say, or I mean, the general consensus is you can't lead where you are where you haven't gone. You can't lead where you're not willing to go. You can't be a coach to somebody if you've never been in a race and won the race. And clearly, John Gray is having an issue with his self control. You can't teach other people to have discipline and you have no self control. It just makes no sense. So there's no reason for him to be a church, a pastor. In his Instagram post, he says something to the point that I'm losing my thought. I have to go back to it. But he said something, I can't think of it. Anyway, so Gray got caught up in the world of reality TV. In case you might have seen his reality show that was on OWN network called The Book of John Gray. So John Gray started out as an associate or assistant pastor, whatever they call it, at Joel Osteen's church, Lakewood Church in Houston. And then that's when he got a chance to have his own reality show. And with that, or as a result of that, he got an opportunity to move to either he was looking at opening a church, and well, where am I going to open? Is it going to be Atlanta? Is it going to be Charlotte? Is it going to be somewhere in South Carolina? So I guess he chose in between South Carolina, in between Atlanta and Charlotte. So all this rat knows to do is to just jump on the wheel and keep going, because just because somebody offers you something doesn't mean you have to accept it. Just because they want you to have a show and that comes with more money and more notoriety, and of course the money and notoriety come with more women, and come with more privileges. That doesn't mean that you have to accept it, especially if you are a broken person, an emotionally unstable person, and you know you have some issues. You have to be wise enough to know that doing this is not going to be better. It could make it worse. It's like people who are married and your marriage is broken and you think, okay, if we just have a baby. No, boo. The baby is going to make it more challenging. Being a parent is more of a challenge than not being a parent. Okay. So you got to know what you're walking into. And it doesn't seem like John Gray has the wisdom to walk away from any of this. And that's why the parishioners have to make that call for him. But it seems some of the parishioners who are commenting on John Gray's video are saying things like, oh, we love you. And it's okay to love your pastor, but you have to make the decision. That's like when you love your kids. You might love them, but you got to whip that ass sometimes. You might love them, but you have to have discipline, and you have to make them study, and you got to make them do what they need to do. That's a part of loving somebody, is telling them the truth and leading them in the right way. And so it seems like the parishioners are more enablers. So when parishioners at Relentless Church allow Gray to continue to behave as he admits that he is behaving, that is hurting the church, himself, and his family, and they still hold and they still allow him to hold the position of pastor, they become enablers, and that in turn could become a liability for the church, because it only takes um a woman or two. This is the third time. At some point, one of these women is going to sue the church for millions of dollars because they allowed him to continue in the spotlight. They're gonna hook it up now. When they go to when they start suing you, they come up with a storyline. What was that the other day? I just read something. It wasn't even the other day where, oh, okay, it's coming back to me. Okay, so this guy, it was a man and a woman, girlfriend and boyfriend. They were in a relationship, supposed to be. He was sleeping around. They decided after, well, anyway, let me say this. She got HIV. She got sexually transmitted disease from her boyfriend who was sleeping around, and she sued the his car insurance company. Look it up. Woman sues car insurance company over boyfriend's cheating, gave her STD or something like that. You can read the story. Anyway, the car insurance company has to pay this woman, I think, $5 million, because in the clause of the insurance policy, it says something like, I mean, basically, you're held liable if you, that's what insurance is for. So when the guy would not help pay for her, whatever it was. Hey, Bobby Worthy, thanks for looking in. When the guy would not take responsibility, or maybe the girl was just like, let me just see what I can get out of this. She hired an attorney, and the attorney came up with, yeah, you can actually sue his insurance company, car insurance company, if he gave you an STD and y'all were in the car. And that's what and now she's due $5 million. So going back to John Gray and his cheating ways, if the parishioners at Relentless Church continue to allow him to hold the pastor position, and one of these women that he's sleeping with, something happens to them, they get pregnant, they get an STD, call it what you want, however you want it, something happens and goes down, they could sue that church and everybody. And so you think your tithes and offering are going to, uplift the church and uplift God and build a community. No, it's to go pay off some person over here that he was sleeping with. So that's why you have to be discerning about who you hook your name to and your train to and all of this, because if you hook it with the wrong person, you could be on the hook. And so that's why the parishioners need to take a second look at that. Also, the expectations that some people have for their leaders is very low, and that's a problem. When the pastor confesses that they are a freak of the week and you continue to let them be a pastor, then you could be held liable for that. And so that's on the congregation. Now there was another instance. It was a totally different church, and you can look this up too. I'll try to put the link in there for you. But there was a pastor who got in the it was Sunday morning service. He stood up in the pulpit and confessed in the pulpit during Sunday service that he had an affair a few years ago with a woman, and in the congregation, and that he was just confessing his sins. Well, while he's talking, this woman stands up in the congregation and says, and I want them to know, and in fact, she walked up to the pulpit too, because now, she's like, I have the power in this. She walked up to the pulpit with her husband and said, I want the congregation to know that when I was a teenager and I was in this church, you repeatedly raped me in your office. And do you know that pastor never said that didn't happen? He did not deny it. And why the husband of this woman, now woman, was a teenager, didn't whoop his ass right there, I don't know if I would have had that much restraint as somebody's spouse. But anyway, he was allowed to walk out, and on his way out, he got a standing ovation from the congregation. I'm like, what now, y'all? Nobody calling the police, nobody holding nobody back from whipping his ass, but y'all giving him a standing ovation. Y'all, we have too low of an expectation for our leaders and ourselves. It's no wonder that they started giving out participation awards for kids who don't even get first, second, or third place. Y'all just give them, oh, you participated, that's good, you get an award. That's why people have low expectations for themselves and their the leaders around them because of stuff like this. So yeah, low expectations. And so that's why I would say if it would have to be me at the church or John Gray at the church, and I probably would have left a long time ago, and not that you don't expect for a pastor to be a man, because a pastor is a man, and to have some issues, but you can't have more issues than me and call yourself my leader. That's just how I roll. I want somebody who I can look up to, not who I have to console through your stuff. Okay. No, I'm not doing that. So we spoke on the congregation. We spoke on John Gray. Let's talk about what this is doing to his family, especially his wife. Her name is Aventer Gray. So his behavior is emotionally abusive to his wife. How would you feel if your spouse continued to cheat and expected you to just be the forgiving, consoling partner? That make now I'm trying not to curse. I'm trying to be, not curse, but that makes my stomach turn. That would make my stomach turn every time I see you. And so even when you leave my presence, now I got to wonder where you going, what you doing, who you doing it with, and thinking on that. So now you taking away from my peace of mind as the wife and my peace of mind as the mother of your children, because she's also the mother of his two children, because I'm worrying after you. And you a grown man. Why I shouldn't have to worry after you? And you're the pastor. You should be above all that. Some things, apparently, if we look at him, he might want to, cut down on the cholesterol food, do some more exercising and stuff, but we all have fallen short in some way. And so I just would expect for a pastor to be above having being a serial cheater. That's just not, you got to choose. And not that and here was my thought that I was thinking of a few minutes ago. You know, it's in his video, John Gray said something like, the God called me to do this, and I'm trying to live up to everything that God wants me to live up to. And I get that when you feel like God has called you, you want to be that person who answers the call. But maybe the call wasn't really to be pastor. And I would think that God would want you to be a better example as um as his mouthpiece. He would want you to be a better example. If you can't be no better example than that, then maybe you just need to be on the usher board or something. Because, dude, pastor is not the calling. Far be it from me to defy what you said God's claim that he won't for you. But at any rate, maybe you just need to start with, sitting on the front pew or something, being the usher board, being in the choir or something. I hear you like to sing when you up there. Maybe you just need to be the organist or something else in the church, because again, we all have fallen short. So yeah, going back though, seriously speaking, this is an emotional abuse to his wife and to his children. Who knows what they know about all this? And here's the thing: children oftentimes know more than we think they know. They hear more than we think they hear, and they self actualize. They think everything that's wrong is their fault. And so you're doing them a disservice by continuing to not be the father and husband that they deserve, that God would intend for you to be. And so I wonder if the shoe was on the other foot and Aventer, his wife, was the one who was doing the sleeping around, the serial cheater. I wonder how forgiving John Gray would be. I wish every man would think about that. And we know women cheat as well as men cheat. But I would think, and I guess I could say, before you cheat on your spouse, think about how would you feel if they did to you what you are doing to them. And hopefully that would make people reconsider their actions and behavior. I would hope so. um, and so that's what I would want. If you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. And I'm closing up, and I want to close with this. When you are building a relationship with someone, you want to be honest with them about your habits, about your past, and about your expectations of them and the relationship. Because that's why you can't move too fast in relationships. And I know it feels good and it feels euphoric, and you're like, oh, I love this person, the best man I ever met. And about a month later, you're like, I can't stand this person. So you just have to move slow. You got to move with the end in mind. And if they are meant to be in your life, then it's not going to be like some whirlwind, something that you need to act on right now. You need to take your time and evaluate people, get to know their family, because people are extensions of their families. I will always be thankful for remember Iyanla's Fix My Life show, and all the baggage that people are going through today. Once she start unraveling, unpacking those bags, it was something that happened to them years, decades ago, generations ago. And so that just goes to show, y'all, we are dealing with some stuff today because of what we went through yesterday and years ago. And so you can't um what's the word? You can't underestimate the value of getting to know people and getting to know them slowly, because anybody could put on a good front for a couple of months. If you're around them every day, they could put on a good front a couple of weeks. But when if you get to know them and just talk, have conversations, quit just texting each other and going out to eat and having sex and all of this stuff, and y'all haven't even had a conversation. You don't even know that person's middle name. You don't even know what color they like. You know what I'm saying? So just asking questions and talking. There was a recent survey that showed that most men over 30, they want to be married. They want to be married to a woman. They want to have kids. They want the traditional family life. But there's more to it than just wanting it. You have to work at it. And that's where most people get caught up in that picture. They don't want to work at it. They just want it. They want you to be the image for them. They don't want to do no work. A cheater is taking time, money, and energy away from building with their spouse and their family. I don't know if you've ever considered this, but let's consider how much money, time, and energy is spent on cheating. So if you're married, you're supposed to be doing things with your family, your children, your wife, going to work, paying for y'all's expenses and whatever future goals you guys have. But instead, you meet somebody. Now you're thinking about that person. So now, instead of you thinking about all this the family stuff that you claimed that you wanted, now you're thinking about this other person, or man or woman. And now you start talking to this person. So now you're spending time thinking about talking to this other person instead of your spouse and your family and your kids. let's say you spent 5 or 10 hours doing that away. That's 5 or 10 hours. You could have been building something over here that you claimed that you wanted. Now you're thinking about taking it further and cheating with that person, going to the movies, eating out, texting each other, sending nasty pictures. Now you want to consummate it with some real lives, things that y'all shouldn't be doing because you're married. Now you've spent all this time, money, energy, emotions over here when you could have been putting that over there. At the end of the day, after you've done all that, you don't spend at least 40 hours. You don't worked a week's worth of a job over here with this person doing something that you could have been putting over here with your family. And so it's a waste of time, money, and energy. And not to mention, if your spouse finds out and they decide to leave, now the cost of divorce and now the cost of child support and all that that entails, and the family splitting up. So I think that before we start trying to juggle people's lives, people's emotions, and getting involved with multiple people, we need to think about, do the cost analysis on that. And I think hopefully a lot of us would decide that it's not worth it. Because if you're really trying to build something, whether you're a pastor or whether you just a wife or a husband, mother, father, you have a career, you are taking time away from what you said that you wanted. And it takes time to build that picture. So do the cost analysis. And if your pastor is like John Gray, then you need to leave that church, okay? Because he's got issues. And according to Jeremiah 7, if you keep letting him do whatever he's doing and you still supporting him as the pastor, the whole church going down. Okay, so that's all I got for you. To find out the things more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal, and that's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and have a super